Hey everybody, this is Al with El Rey Collection, and today we're here to talk about the epic cardboard of Ricardo Zamora. For those of you who don't know who Zamora was, he was one of the most legendary Spanish goalkeepers of all time. In fact, he was named by the IFFHS to be the best Spanish goalkeeper of all time, the fourth best European of the 20th century, and the fifth all time of the 20th century. And this, given the fact that he was an early, player of the game, he had a huge impact. Played for Real Madrid, Espanyol, Barcelona, the Catalonian national team, as well as the Spain national team. He was a bit of a character. He had some run-ins with the law, and was famed to drink a lot of cognac. He also had an impact on the style of the game between wearing a cap and a turtleneck. But more than anything, he was just a great keeper and someone who has tested the trials of time to be remembered. The best goalkeeper in the Liga gets the Ricardo Zamora trophy, and he is basically just the legend of goalkeepers for Spain. So the some of the cards, which is mostly what I try to focus on of him, are the most beautiful cards in my collection. And this one that you're seeing right here, which is just a PSA, two. Just look at, an SGC two. Look at this La Confianza, this artwork here. Now these cards were made generally for chocolate producers, and they each own company would put their own ad on the back after there's a little write up. Um, you know, Unfortunately, I wish that I had more copies of this to show some of the differences, but I don't. This is just one of those amazing cards. There's another version of this that has an artistic rendition of him. That was more of the photographic version. But you'll see lots of things from the early 1920s of his. This is something called La Colmena. It's actually more of a wrapper than it is an actual card, but this is kind of a cool, nice little item that you don't see every day. There's these people call these different things: papel de fumar, mi papel. SGC calls this J La Porta y Valor. Tiny little cards. You can find these a lot of times on Toto, not very expensive. A lot of these 1920s Spanish issues are just absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, not all of them fit into standard size SGC or PSA holders, so they're like the postcard size, and that doesn't really work well with my setup. But you'll find some absolutely beautiful cards, Art Deco cards of Zamora. I would highly recommend spending some time on Todo Coleccion and seeing what you can find. But he was an international, very well known and celebrated, and cards made of him from around the world. Also, some examples of that. This is a Greeling from 1926, color. So this is while he's playing for Spain. So he's having cards made about him in the 1920s. From there, he's having cards made of him in Argentina, where they're talking about where he plays for Espanyol at this point, right? A bunch of different cards, which I find these are so hard to find, these Argentine cards, and these are all made of him. Here's kneeling. So he was, just a classic, and continued to stay involved in the game and get through the 1940s. He actually got into some politics as well, which wasn't necessarily great. But these early dollar cards from the 1920s out of Argentina are amazing. These, here's another example of just some of these crazy Spanish cards of just the art. And this, again, you can see down here. This one is Cafés Tostadas La Pajarita. So you've got that one, and then you've got the same card. It looks like the same card, right? But on the back, it's Piera y Brugueras. So the cards were just manufactured by someone, and then they'd send them out to the chocolate companies, or the chocolate companies would order to get their names placed on the cards. So you'll have lots of cards that look the same, but are slightly different based on who had them. This is kind of cool because there's a couple different versions of this. This is an in-action shot from 1928, the Olympics, and you have a couple different versions. You have this particular card. It comes from Africa, Angola. Just insane, right? You don't see many African cards, let alone from 1928. And here's the same card in color from Tabacalera La Moderna, which is, I can't remember if it's Honduras. I think it's Honduras. Let's see. No, it doesn't say. Yeah, or no, El Salvador, actually. So you got the same thing. I mean, so he's being celebrated around the world for his greatness. And that's just a validation, right? For those of you who say, hey, how do we know this player was good? I mean, if Africa is making cards of a Spanish goalkeeper, if El Salvador is making cards, I mean, who else are they making cards of? I mean, this guy was absolutely epic. Here's another example of one of these trade cards, and they would normally have an advertisement. This is a blank one. I have some other ones that have kind of a bizarre back there. But this is a beautiful trade card. We also have, very common. If you're on a budget, I highly recommend this card. 1932 Bulgaria Sport. Very accessible. You can find this, certainly it's got to be less than, $50 in nice condition. It's a card that's nearly 100 years old of a top 5 20th century goalkeeper. And look at this one right here. I love this one. So this is with Richard Hoffman, the German great. Here he is in the late 1930s. So he'd already been playing, what did he start, 1920, 1922? And he's playing here, well into the late 30s. And then you even see him here. This is a 1950s card from Spain, but he's still being celebrated as the great that he was. And he's an eclectic personality. He would carry a doll around with him. He'd break out in bar fights. He disagreed with the Spanish authorities, taxation authorities. There was his role in politics through the Spanish Civil War, not necessarily a highlight of his life, but he was an excellent goalkeeper. If you go back to some of the stats that they draw up on Extra Time, you'll see that he was truly exceptional and much better than his peers by any empirical data. So his cards from the 1920s, especially these Spanish issues, are knock your socks off. Unfortunately, I don't have them all graded, and they're bigger holders, but absolutely worth getting. Hope you find Ricardo Zamora super exciting and add him to your collection, because if you're a goalie collector, a Spain collector, or a pre-war collector, he's an absolute must-have. Please click that like button if you like some of this content. Subscribe to the channel and come back and see me again when I have some other videos. Thanks so much.